Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm an American living in France. I've lived here for about 2 years now, and I just took the TCF IRN. This is a French language test, and it can be used for a few different things. In this video, I'll explain what the exam is and how I studied for it, and then what my exam experience was actually like. And then I'll also give you some examples of what I heard from other people, some of the test questions that I heard from other people as well and their experience. So TCF stands for Test de Connaissance du Français, and IRN stands for Intégration, Résidence, et Nationalité. So integration, residence, and nationality. So with this exam, you can do a few things. You can use it for applying for jobs to show your French level. You can use it for applying for your nationality. And you can use it for renewing your carte de séjour, your kind of the equivalent of it would be your visa. So you can use it for a few different things, and it lasts for 2 years. Unlike other French exams like the DELF, which is a lifetime, like it doesn't expire, this exam has a 2-year shelf life. So I will need to, if I pass that B1 level, I will need to use it within the next 2 years to apply for citizenship if that's what I decide to use it for. And I think for your 10-year visa, you only need an A2 level in French. For your nationality, right now you need a B1. Eventually, sometime within the next 2 years, you'll need a B2 level. With this exam specifically, because there are different types of TCF exams, there's a Canadian one, there are a few different types, but for this one specifically, the highest level that you can obtain on the certificate is a B1. Even if you score higher than a B1, you will just be awarded that B1 level. This exam is valid, or the certificate, the diploma is valid for 2 years. So unlike DELF, DELF, it's another French exam, language exam. Unlike DELF, you only have 2 years for this exam, whereas DELF is a lifetime, like it doesn't expire at any time. I am not sure if you can use DELF for citizenship. I've been told you can, I've been told you can't. So I'm not sure about that, but I was definitely told by a government agency, and you can find it online, that TCF is definitely used. TCF IRN is definitely used for nationality. I actually paid for this exam. There are a few different types, so I'm not sure the cost of the different ones, and it probably depends on where you are. But where I am, the cost was 140 euro. I had friends who also took this exam, and they took it within the time limit of within their first year of living here and completing signing their CIR. So signing that begins this clock to take the TCF. So if you take it within a year of signing, the test is free. So that's a nice perk if you're able to do that. I didn't realize it was a thing until that was already passed, so I didn't have that option. I did end up paying for it. You can take the exam. If you don't pass, you can take it again. That's not a problem. They did tell us if we cheated on the exam that we could not take the exam again for 5 years, which was kind of funny, but it would be really hard to cheat on that exam. I will try to link the manual below. But there are 4 different sections for this exam, and the difficulty in this exam lies in the timing. Even if you are very comfortable speaking French and reading French and listening to French, it's very quick. I actually talked with a girl from Congo, and she said she was a bit nervous. She spoke French fluently, and she was still a bit nervous about having that B1 level because it was timed. So for the comprehension orale, oral comprehension, which is like the listening portion, you have 20 questions and you have 15 minutes. and you can listen to each question one time, and then you have to choose between 4 different options for your answer. So it goes very quickly. So to practice, I actually would time myself doing the practice sessions. I would give myself about 15 minutes for 15 questions. You could even do less time if you wanted to try and run through each question. For the compréhension écrite, you'll have 20 minutes for 20 questions. This one is something that I think is a bit more challenging because it's sometimes by the end you get these very long paragraphs. At the beginning of each section, the questions are very simple. It's like A1 level, A2 level, and then it gets progressively more difficult so that by the end you're at C1, C2 maybe level. So you're really not expected, maybe if you're going for B1, you're not expected to get these later questions correct necessarily, but you need to try and get as many as you can correct. The third section is expression écrite. So this part is in 3 stages. You have 3 different things that you will have to write. The difficulty here is it is timed. You have 30 minutes for these to answer these 3 questions in written form, but it's on the computer, and you have a little box on the side. You have a certain number of words you have to write for each question, and then you have to use these special symbols like the accent marks and different things because you want your grammar and your writing to be correct, but it's really difficult to try and type in French on the computer. Also, if you're used to an American keyboard, you're using a French keyboard here. So if you can practice ahead of time, it might be a good idea to do that. I ended up having more time than I thought I would. The first 2 questions, I think the minimum requirement is 40 words, so it's really not that long. The first 2 questions I had were writing letters. One was asking me to write like a letter about my vacation, so you just make up whatever you want. Try and use the words you know, use the vocabulary you know. And then I can't remember what the second question was. Oh, I think it was asking if I had visited someone's apartment recently and what did I think of it? Did I like the place? So I had to pretend like I had visited a friend's apartment and I had to describe the apartment in the message. And then the third was, I can't remember what this one was, but I was supposed to, I think, write about an experience. It might have been write about my town, or write about why or why not. Why do I like my town, or why don't I like my town? I think that's what it was. And I think that was a minimum of 60 words. So it really wasn't that long. I ended up finishing with like 10 minutes to spare, and I was able to go back and like look over everything and change some things, correct a few things before I submitted it. The fourth section of this exam is the expression orale, oral expression. So you'll actually be in front of someone like having a conversation. This was the part I was most nervous for. You're in front of someone, you're having to speak French, you don't want to make mistakes. So I was definitely the most uncomfortable in this section. It's recorded. There's like a little recording device, and they record you during this session. And the first part, there are 3 stages to this. The first part, you make an introduction. You just introduce yourself. You're supposed to speak for 3 minutes in this section. And the person interviewing you, they can ask you questions. I think my interviewer asked me something about my kids or something like that. And then when you're done with that section, then you have some type of interaction. So mine was, I was at a phone store and I was supposed to be buying a new phone. This was a little difficult. It's really hard to improv when you're nervous and you're supposed to be speaking another language correctly. So for me, this part was a little difficult. I didn't do a very good job improving with this guy. I felt kind of bad for him because I wasn't making it very easy. But we just went through an interaction like I was buying a new phone. For the third stage, you're just supposed to express your opinion. So my question was, what types of activities do I like to do with my family? So I just talked about what I like to do for fun with my family, go on a hike, be out in nature, do something fun with them. So, and he did ask me a few questions during that part, but I think that section is also supposed to be about 3 minutes. I think it's 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. It's total, you end up in there between like 10 and 15 minutes. So anyway, one thing he did ask me when I was at the phone store, he asked for my phone number and my email address. And I did make the mistake. I would practice your phone number in French. That's something I always get hung up on. I know it in English, and it's hard in the moment to remember a number that I haven't had very long because we moved here about 2 years ago. I had the same cell phone number since I was like 17 years old. So to switch phone numbers and try to remember, it took me a while to memorize it anyway. And then to have to say it in another language can be really hard, especially when you're nervous, you're on the spot. So I blanked and I said like the first 6 numbers, and the next 4 I just blanked and forgot. So instead of telling him I forgot my phone number, I just made up 4 more numbers, and I didn't realize, but he was checking to see if I was giving him the correct phone number. And he looked up at me and kind of smiled, and I was like, sorry. And the recording won't catch that. So I don't know how it'll be graded. I don't know if he took points off because I didn't say the correct number. It's a pretend scenario, so who knows. But just to let you know, they could ask you your phone number and double check that you're giving them the right information. Same with my email address. I did slip up with my email, and instead of saying arrobas, I think that's how you say it, the at symbol, I said like we do in English, at gmail.com, hotmail.com, whatever. So I recommend you practice saying those things. It's a silly little thing, but it may help you on your test. So that's what the test was like. When I got there, everyone was so friendly. I find that this was at Greta. It was through Greta. And I signed up through Greta. There are different test centers, but I took mine through this center, and I had never been to this one before. But everyone was very friendly, and there were about 10 people. I think there were 10 people in our group, and we were all on computers. They do ask to take your photo at the beginning. They explain what the test is going to be about. Before you even take the test, they send you a manual that I'm going to try to attach below. And it really explains everything you need to know, which is nice. There weren't really any surprises. Some other scenarios that I heard people talk about in the interview process were one girl had to exchange a pair of pants. One girl had to buy a bike at a store. They were all interactions though at stores. When I was practicing through Greta, I was doing practicing the DELF exam because that's the one that you have to take through Greta. So I only took an examen blanc, a practice test through Greta it was a DELF practice exam. And that oral expression part, I had to have an interaction with a police officer, and I didn't have my papers on me. I didn't have my any kind of ID on me, and so I had to talk my way through it. And I think that's much more complicated than what I was actually asked in the interview. Another girl was asked, what is your favorite season? So it was really just more of a conversation. You just talk about what you like or what you don't like or why you like or don't like something. So another question I've heard be asked is, what is your favorite movie and why? or what is your favorite city, and explain why. So really just practicing, like, you can't know what they're going to ask you. I think that's the most unnerving part of this, but you can practice vocabulary around things you like or don't like, and you can think about what you like and don't like about your own city, what maybe your favorite city, your favorite film, some of your favorite things, and think of vocabulary around that to practice. I prepared for this exam by using the TV 5 Monde app. It's TV, the number 5, and Monde, like world, M-O-N-D-E. You can download the app and create an account. There are practice tests in there. There are 17 study sessions. So you can go through all the different steps. I think that the little study sessions, there were 17 total. I think those were much harder than the actual exam. TV 5 Monde is a news station. It's a news outlet, and they create all kinds of content. The idea with this exam, because they help create this exam, and the idea is that you can actually hear things in the real world and understand. So a lot of what you hear using this app, these are real broadcasts, real interviews, real news. So there are some interesting stories, there are relevant news stories, so that can be interesting. Some of the practice exams, you can choose your level, but for the B1 level, I found some of the questions very difficult, especially for the oral comprehension part, but it's really good practice. It's a good way to improve your oral comprehension, which for me is probably my weakest. Another way that I practiced was to actually record myself on my phone speaking. If you have a place like where you have a French teacher or a spouse who speaks French and writes French well, you can always practice your writing, but you can also write out kind of a script, because one of the oral expression parts is an introduction. So you have to speak for about 3 minutes. You may not be doing all the speaking because they could ask you a question, but recording yourself and seeing if you can talk about yourself in French for 3 minutes is a great way to practice. And then you can go back and hit play and listen, and you really can pick up on some of your own mistakes. And then you can also ask someone else to listen to it and have them pick out some of your mistakes, and make sure to note those and try to correct them. The week before the exam, I was doing this every day. I was recording 1 or 2 times of these like 3-minute recordings, just so I could get comfortable saying this script over again. But you don't want it to sound like a script, so you have to memorize, not completely memorize, but just have an idea of what you want to say. Another thing you can do is, if you have a French person who you can kind of practice with, where you can have an interaction, something about maybe pretending like you're shopping and you need to find something at a store, or any of the examples that I gave you from what I heard from other people, those will help you. So those are some of the best ways to study. Definitely use the app, because at least 2 parts on the exam are going to be, the app is going to be so helpful for those. I don't know if I passed yet, but I do know I attained my B1 levels for my first 2 sections on the computer. It takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to grade the writing and the oral expression. So in 2 to 3 weeks, I'll know for sure, and I can pick up my diploma potentially at my local Greta. If you are taking the TCF IRN, I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, please ask below. I'll try to answer them if I can. And if you are taking it, I wish you the best of luck.